Hello, everyone. I got these people to shut up. And I think you can hear me. Yes, we can. Good. Just check my sound levels. It's all good. Hi. Welcome to our little 4-session Dark Sun campaign. Don reached out to us, said he'd like to run it. So we all assembled like some Avengers, I guess. Shout out to Susie's whatever she's playing at the moment. That's Marvel, right? Cool. I know what's cool with the kids. Don, hello. I'm going to throw it over to you, and then I don't know. You can say hi to us.
Yeah, sure. Hey, hi everybody. Thanks for coming today, checking us out, beginning our new adventure. If you don't know me, I'm Don. I'm a game master and role-playing game writer. I've been playing with these folks for a long time. We played Game of Thrones for a very long time. I think we started in like 2018, 2019. But I've never gotten the chance to run a game for all of you all at once before, so I'm super excited about doing that. It's been a long time.
And I'm just
Uh,
super excited about Dark Sun as well. I'm a
yeah, I love
huge
Dark
fan.
Sun. Yeah. Well, today we will be playing the first of 4 episodes. The adventure is called Dark Sun: Curse of Guthay, and it's an original sandbox adventure that I wrote. It's set in this setting, Athos, using my version of a tabletop RPG called Cairn. And it's designed to play out very differently every time you play, with its events and outcomes sort of being driven by all of your choices and a good deal of luck. Cairn, if you don't know it, it was written by Yokai Gao, and it's a game that sort of reflects the spirit of early Dungeons and Dragons. So it's got simple game mechanics, dangerous encounters, and it has an emphasis on player creativity and role play over more complicated mechanics. So it's a really great game if you're interested in it, and I highly recommend checking it out. Most of the first edition is online on a website for free. It's cairnrpg.com. And it's really good for short, pulpy campaigns like this one. You'll catch on to the rules pretty quickly as we play, but more or less, we're going to roll a lot of 20-sided dice, and you're generally hoping to roll equal or under the number of one of your stats, like strength, dexterity, or mind. So rolling low is good, and high is usually bad. And there are no attack rolls in combat. So instead of rolling attacks, you just roll damage and then subtract the target's armor from that. Characters, they have hit protection instead of hit points. And works pretty similarly, except for you will lose and regain your HP very quickly, which means that combat's usually short. It's theater of the mind, and it's super dangerous. Those are the main differences, though. Everything else will kind of catch up on as we go along. That's
Awesome.
what we're playing today.
Awesome. Well, let's say hi to the fam. See how everyone's getting on. Hello, Tom. You're first in the
Am I
overlay this
first?
time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's
Thought I'd
nice.
mix it up this
Oh,
time.
there we go.
How you doing?
Um, yeah, not too bad. It's good to be back playing some ttrpgs with all you guys. And funny enough, oddly enough, I might have been the one to know Don the longest. And I think, Don, this might be the very first time you actually DM, apart from maybe that one shot
A
that
one shot.
where I came in to just sub because someone left. This might be after all those years, it must be at least 10 years or something like that. Probably longer.
I can't
Um,
even remember. It was Call of Cthulhu, though. It's been
yeah,
a
it was
long
Call of
time.
Cthulhu. And then yeah, I've only ever played with you. I've never been DM'd by you. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Myself, I am playing a character called Raka. He is a merchant defiler. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I do magic stuff, which is always good, you know. Um, yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing. And I am a sucker for a system where you are really vulnerable and can die at any moment. That's why I like Call of Cthulhu and stuff so much. I like the kind of like where you can just go boop with one mistake. I mean, I have been one-shotted many, many times, so uh, I'm used to it now. So I'm looking forward to it.
Terms of service, Tom. All right. Susie.
Samantha. Hello, everyone. Ugh. You'll have to forgive me. I do apologize if I cough. I got sick over Christmas and I've still got the cough, so I'm sorry, chat. It's horrible, but I live with it. Um, it's good to be back playing games. I've missed it. I haven't played tabletop in forever.
I haven't in a
So
while,
nobody
actually.
nobody told me that when, we start making tabletop games, you have less time to play them.
You have to stop playing them. It's a rule.
Yeah. I get to read them, I just don't get to play them. So I'm glad to play. And I've never played Ken before. I'm very excited. I've seen a lot of talk about it. I'm very pumped to try it. And I'll be playing Melee, who is a human barbarian, who is kind of a little bit legally distinct from Millie Thompson from Trigun. Don't look too closely. She's big, she's a barbarian, she's happy-go-lucky, she has a huge family, and she will fuck you up. But she's nice though.
Nice. Nice. Speaking of fucking you up, hi James.
Hello,
That's what
it's
she
good if
gave
I
me, I'm
remember to
sorry.
turn my. It's fine. It's standard. Susie fucks me up could be like the title of many an autobiography. I think for many people, it's the autobiographies of Ultimus. Susie, she fucks you up. Tom, he's had many one shots. It just carries on. Talking about, I'm really looking forward to playing this as well because I've never been DM'd by Don either. I think, even though we've chatted about a load of stuff and we're always bouncing ideas and bits and pieces. I am very much looking forward to it. I am used to the crunch, and I'm just now settling into a crunchless or a less crunchy world. So this is going to be fun. I am playing a halfling druid called Zalis, who loves sand, loves to be one with the sand, wants everyone to be one with the sand, and we should all just love sand. I don't know what the problem is. Just enjoy the sand. It's fine.
Like everything in Dark Sun, I'm sure it will be. Well, this is kind of a little bit of a homecoming for me because I played in one of Don's paid-for games, which was a Dark Sun campaign, and I had a Thri-kreen ranger / barbarian. Don't come for my multi-class. It was awesome. I was the tank of the party, main class ranger into barbarian, and I was the tank. It was alright though. I survived. Just about. Which is more than can be said for what my expectations are of this 4-session campaign. But we're glad to be back, and we're glad to be streaming again. I've missed tabletop, and yeah, like Susie said, I haven't played in ages. So yeah, I'm really keen to give this a go. And we played with like full 5th edition, like homebrewy rules last time, Don. So I'm keen to see what cairn can do as well, which is not an easy sentence to say. Not a lot of housekeeping to do, really. Channel stuff like that. I saw a sub go past, and you're entitled to give someone an advantage, which is something in the game, isn't it, Don?
Yeah, we're gonna do re-rolls.
Cool.
So you can re-roll something, any dice, or you can make somebody else re-roll something.
So Pope, throw in chat who you want to give a reroll to. Let us know. I'll write it down, and I'll get it on the overlay next time. Promise. All right, I think that's enough from us and our stupid intros. Don, why don't you take it away?
All right. Let's get started. Athos is a godless world ruled by sorcerer kings and sorcerer queens whose defiling magic destroyed the environment thousands of years ago. Today, the barren wastes known as Tablelands are a lawless place where alien beasts roam, where great storms can wipe out an entire settlement in mere moments, and where a single drop of water can sometimes be more precious than gold. Civilization clings to a few scattered areas of fertile land and fresh water, gathering in larger city-states or remote villages. Others wander about in nomadic tribes and clans, scavenging and killing for what they need to survive in the harsh desert. And so, you lot, you've all left behind the city-state of Nibenay to venture out into the wastes in search of fortune. You put together this crew after hearing rumors that one of the Nibenese Templars seeks a priceless relic, it's known as the Moon Key, to gain the king's favor. To reach the relic first, you will trek across the desert to the witch-haunted black woods known as Gulg. And in Gulg's hidden forest river, there lies an ancient temple within your treasure. Along the way, you hope to unearth other forgotten treasures lost in the wasteland, and to that end, you've all stayed the night in a small merchant camp in the shadow of the city, right at the edge of the scorching desert. A few scattered tents made of leather dot the surroundings. They're held up by the bleached bones of massive beasts. You've purchased travel supplies and a trained mount, a kink. It's this giant insect capable of helping you cross the blistering dunes. It's the morning time now. You've all gathered in the center of camp, packed and ready to begin your journey. It's early morning, but it's hot, and nearby, 3 individuals stand beneath the shadow of a large merchant's tent canopy. You can see the dancer who was here with you the night before. Her name is Rilka. She's bartering with this human water merchant named Harnack. And the merchant has a bodyguard, too, a dwarf, hard-looking individual named Joram. He observes the bartering, the conversation. His fingers never stray far from the haft of his stone axe that hangs from a belt. A little further ways away from the tents, there's a cloaked elf sharpening his hunting knife, watching quietly in the shadow of a tall boulder. Welcome to Dark Sun. And why don't you all describe your characters, what they look like, and what they're doing. And because you have been the one responsible, Samantha, for putting this crew together, why don't you start?
Narissa is... Oh, well done me. They could hear me. You could not. Narissa is a tall, half-elven woman. Unusually pale skin in the sun-bleached desert of Athos. And she wears a lot of very thin cloths draped over her shoulders, up and around her neck as well. But her dark hair flows around her shoulders over the shawl as she surveys her party. She now carries on her back, if I remember rightly, a rare metal blade, a gladius, gilded along its hilt with deadly sharp edges in comparison to her traveling companions' weapons. Gripping it around her right hand, she also holds a bone shard gauntlet. And this is strapped to her forearm, made from the thigh bone of a Barzrak. That's all people can see for now, and she takes a little sip of water from whatever skin she has to hand, and she quietly, through intelligent eyes, just surveys her surroundings and her new traveling companions.
You've purchased enough water for 3 days travel, enough food for 3 days travel. You know, by looking at your map, Narissa, that there's probably twice that almost to get to where you're going and returning. So you know that at some point you're going to need to hunt or scavenge for food and water out in the desert. And the map that you can see there on the screen, that's what you know. You know you're at the edge of the desert, and you know several days to the southwest or west there is the forest nation of Gulg. That's what you're looking for to find this river and this temple. You know the mountains to your northwest, and you know because Harnack told you the night before when you stayed in camp that somewhere to the south is an oasis, somewhere in the desert, and you've marked a possible location for that on your map. So Zalus, Raka, Mei Li, what do you all look like right now? What are you doing as you prepare to break camp in the morning?
Standoff. No, I'll go. Melee is a very tall, very broad human female. She has dusty, like dirty blonde hair, which is kind of like messy, um, from just basically just having woken up and uh, not really gotten herself together yet. Her clothing is quite loose desert clothing. She has a like a shawl, a big green shawl that she keeps around her shoulders and then up over her head when it's hot in the middle of the desert. Her skin has tan to it, but a lot of sun damage. So like across her nose and cheeks is all permanently just pink from the sun, and her arms, when they're exposed, have freckled and always have like a little tan on burn to them. She carries an improbably large backpack, which has all her gear in it. Um, and you see hanging off the side a huge metal spring trap that she just seems to carry as if it's nothing. It doesn't seem to weigh anything to her. And at her waist, there is a thin bone scimitar, which looks improbably sharp, considering its bone. Um, but she doesn't seem to, she's not precious about it or protective over it or anything. She doesn't seem to be cautious of the blade. It's just part of her, and she moves with it. She spends her time, at the moment, she is up with the kank, and she's scritching it behind one of the plates on its head, and just like cooing at the little kank as the party's getting the stuff together.
The kank, it is large enough that four of you can sit on it, and it can carry a large pack of its own. You've been assured by the merchant here that it's well trained, it's domesticated, it might protect you in the desert, or it might not. But it does have its own food and its own way of eating. And Meili, the merchant, showed you how to feed this thing. It wraps its mandibles around the food, and it uses psionics, its personal power, to vibrate meat or other foods until it becomes liquefied. And then when it opens its mouth, there are small little tendrils that reach out and slurp up the liquefied soup. It's, an acquired taste to go through this process, but you've been given enough feed for a week for the kank.
One of Meili's past jobs, she's had many jobs, has been a kank tender, and only that by name, but she was mainly just like mucking out and cleaning up after them. But she gets to add kank tender to her extremely large resume. So she's like, I can look after this thing. That's
And
Meili.
what about Zalus or Raka?
So Zalus is sitting off a little way from everybody and is cross-legged. They've got a hood over their face. Their face is it's a very leathery brown, not from their skin color, but for just from so much time in the desert, like a white person has been burnt and grazed by sand and burnt again and again and again until they're just that dark sort of brown leathery skin. You can see their face under the hood. They've got just a very plain sort of hooded cloak on, very sort of light, and around their waist they have got several leather straps, just holding everything together. They've got binds on their hands, and he has got binds on his hands, and he's got several pouches around on the belt and on the various leather. He just sits cross-legged, and he's just sifting through the sand. It's almost meditative, the way he's just sort of taking handfuls of sand and letting them fall through his fingers, and then taking handfuls of sand and just feeling the sand and the grit as it moves through his hands.
It's a hot morning already, likely just to get hotter. And in Athos, in dark sun, I'm going to go Fahrenheit because I'm American. But the average temperature for a moderate day in dark sun might get up to like 130, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and it can get hotter from there. So protection is important. You've probably learned that well, Zalus. The sun overhead, it is dark. It's ringed by red light and it looms too. It takes up most of the horizon once it rises to its full height. It's not quite risen there yet, and so there's streaks of orange and yellow that spread across the sky and are cast down upon you. And as you're sitting there meditating, about 50 feet away in the shadow of a large boulder, there's another cross-legged individual watching you, curiosity, maybe something else in their eyes. This cloaked elf who stayed here the night before but wasn't social with the people here at this merchant camp, currently carving a really hard piece of fruit, really difficult shell to crack with a hunting knife.
So this
50,
is just
54
gonna-
degrees Celsius, is that right? Yikes.
I'm this white. I look at that number and I feel myself sunburning. That's not okay. I think Salus is going to be aware of them and aware that they're sitting there doing that, and constantly part of their attention is always going to be on what they're doing in case they're making any sudden moves or anything towards the party, but for the most part just going to continue sitting stupidly, seemingly just in the sun, playing in the sand, effectively.
And what about Raka?
Raka currently at the moment is going through his satchel. He seems to be counting and going through his inventory on what he's got with him there. Raka is a very tall individual, tall and quite lanky. Think like Stephen Merchant-esque kind of lanky. He's probably around in middle age. He's got a grey and very neatly trimmed beard. He's wearing quite a colourful yellows and oranges headscarf and long orange and yellows as a kind of cloak around him. Quite a lot of clothing as well. If you were to look at him, it's almost like he's wearing a tent as it drapes from it, but a swift gust of wind as it brushes against his body and his figure can show how quite skinny this person is. He's got leaning his staff up against a rock while he's going through his possessions, and he's almost counting out little ceramics in his on the stone, counting them and then putting them back. In addition, just on the side, in what seems to be what you would think you would put a lantern in, but there doesn't seem to be any light coming from that. Inside, you just see a very small kind of cactus plant in there. And he seems to be kind of preoccupied with just counting out the ceramics, going through his inventory, counting out rations on what he's got.
And as you kind of go through your routine, checking your pack and your inventory and counting out the ceramic pieces in Dark Sun and Athos, they are the common currency. They're traded between merchant houses and various cities. And they're designed in such a way that they're made out of this sort of clay-like ceramic that has crisscrossing lines, dents, built into the little coin. You can break them off into 8 pieces or 8 bits. And so one ceramic piece or 8 bits, that's the currency that most trade is done by. You go through your pack as there's some sort of conversation happening off about 25 feet away between Rilka, this dancer who stayed at the camp the night before, and Harnack, the merchant. And you know, too, Raka, that right now you're at the edge of these really dry shrublands. There's mostly dead grass, ghost grass, but there's little patches of actual growth. It won't last. You've traveled enough that you know once you get much further from the city, that's the desert.
Hmm.
And for Marissa, you know too that however you decide to cross the desert and try to find this forest, this hidden river, your treasure, that you have different options. The desert itself is likely a faster route, but it does leave you more exposed to the sun. The oasis is somewhere in the desert. You've marked a possible location on your map, but it does leave you more exposed to the sun. Whereas the mountains to the northwest might be slower going and have their own challenges, but they could also provide more opportunities for shelter. You can look around and see there's your party, Zalus meditating, Meili tending the kank, and Raka going through his pack, and you hear this conversation with this merchant off to the side as well. You hear him say to Rilka, "My children can't eat your music, your song. The answer's no." And he grabs a sheet of, it looks like a piece of leaf or some sort of natural parchment that she's trying to offer to him. And he throws it on the ground and kind of pushes her away and storms off. You're all together. It is the morning. What do you do?
Nerissa will just regard that without much observable, like, emotional empathy to that. And then she'll make her way to Meili and then present the map to her. Point to where the oasis has been marked, which Don, I assume is like the star at this in the south.
That's right here. You should see the ping on the map.
Merchants tell me that this is a 4-day ride. We have exactly 4 days worth of provisions. So we move south, find this oasis, replenish our supplies, and then move west.
Okay. But are we sure there will be supplies at the oasis?
One would hope there would be water.
I guess. As we're looking at this map, the whole situation with the dancer getting pushed happens, and Meili just like she looks at the dancer that gets pushed, and she's like, "Hey!" And she walks over and like she picks up the dancer off the floor. Just ignores, like she's like gone. Attention.
Rilka is obviously spent a lot of her time, even more than most, probably in the sun, exposed to the sun. You can see that sort of leathery quality to the tan that she has. And she's on the ground in the shrubs, trying to search through this prickly grass to grab up this sheet that was thrown on the ground. You can see there's tears kind of gathered in the corners of her eyes, but she's holding them back. And she's kind of, when she looks up at you, she's kind of striking, Bailey. She's got this ethereal white hair, but she's not old. She must be in her mid-20s. And she's got this set of jewelry, various jewels, some bone, some actual gems on this low-hanging necklace around her dress. Most of her face is covered in a veil to protect it from the sun. But when she moves and when she starts to stand up, that jewelry, it jingles. That necklace, it jingles. It's almost musical, the sound.
Meili offers her a hand to help her up. Are you okay?
I, I am, I'm fine. It is just, I had hoped that I would enter the city today, but I do not have what I need, the ceramic pieces. I cannot get passage, and I'd hoped perhaps I could sell some of my wares to the merchant. But I suppose you cannot eat music.
And Meili kind of her little brow, like her brow furrows a little bit. We have a merchant.
Merchant, Does he have the writs of passage? Does he have the 100 ceramics? That is the cost.
And she like Meili like takes her hand and like he's leading her over to the group. Hey, Raka.
And she's very timid as she comes over, but she does tug down her scarf once she gets within the shade of the merchant tent that you're all standing around. And anyone who looks at Roka, you can see she's got a scar that runs just off of her ear all the way down to about her left side of her lip. But otherwise, she's a young woman. She's got hope in her eyes, Raka, as Meili brings her over.
Yes, Meili.
Hold on. Hold on, Tom. Raka, this young lady, this lady needs help getting into the city, and she has wares to sell. And I know you like to buy things, and I know you like to sell things.
He has a look, and because of his height, he kind of almost looms over her, but it's quite awkward because he kind of like moves his torso over to have a look down and appraise this person as if trying to see what worth this actual person before him is whether it's worth his time. And he leans back. So, what do you have to offer?
You can tell Raka, because I believe you have an ability, right, that lets you
yes.
appraise.
I can appraise, basically, quickly I can quickly size up an item, but
It's the main thing. Her clothes, they're more colorful than most people's, but they're simple material. Certainly, probably handcrafted from pieces of other clothing. Her necklace, that sort of jeweled amulet with bones in it, you can tell immediately that the jewels are fake. They're not real. It's impressive, perhaps, that they are crafted to appear so well, and the sound that they make is really rather pleasant in the desert wind. But there's no value there, and she's got calloused hands that suggest that she does quite a lot of work with her hands despite her small frame. But there's hope in her eyes, and she says, "I am Rilka. I have been here in this camp for 3 weeks. I have spent my entire fortune to stay here, to eat and drink. I have spoken to travelers and the merchant to try to trade my wares. I am a dancer, a musician. I write songs and choreograph about desert stories, legends, mythologies, if you will. I know that if I can but enter the city of Nibenay, that my art will be valued there. But alas, I have no coin left. I am running out of food and water. You are a merchant, yes? And obviously, she looks you up and down, a man who appreciates culture.
He gives a thin smile. I do. He extends his kind of long, bony hand out, and he goes, "May I see your work?"
Yes, of course. I write this song about the howls that I hear at night here in camp, the ones that come from the desert to the southwest. It is the sound of nature, most primal, retaking its world from those who would claim it as their own. It does not have a name yet, but I do have a dance. And she offers you this slip of, you're not sure exactly what kind of leaf this is, but it's dried and it's been somehow preserved, maybe through chemicals, you would guess, Raka. And etched onto it in common language are notes, musical notes, and ideas for lyrics.
Okay. I've been in this city before, right?
Nibenay, yeah.
Yeah, Nibenay. So can I use an appraisal to see how talented this woman is with her writing and whether or not it would have been, like has she got talent? Would this be appreciated inside in certain kind
Yeah,
of
I love that.
cliques and
Yeah, so you can tell pretty immediately that there's some real inspiration there, that she has a unique point of view with her music. The music isn't like your understanding of basic music. It's unique. That's the main thing. There's potential there, but you also know Nibenay, and you know that the small number of theaters that are able to actually sustain themselves in a very survival-oriented economy, even though Nibenay is maybe artistically the most cultured of all of the city-states, there's not many that can survive, and those that do, it's cutthroat, it's politics, and this woman, it might be harder for her there than she expects it to be.
Okay. So he examines this form, the dance and the music on this leaf, and hands it back to her. You are very talented. It is unique, but it is not 100 ceramics worth of uniqueness.
I could write another. Perhaps I write one about you, and you. And she points to Melee. Both of you, I think, probably loom a lot larger than
Oh
she
yeah.
is.
But in many different ways. One is
Yeah.
thin as anything, the other's broad. Yeah, it's like weird.
Melee beams at that. It's like that's sounds great to her. What do you think, Raka?
He kind of strokes his beard, his neatly trimmed beard. You would not survive on your own in the city. However, under certain sponsorship from such as myself, perhaps you could thrive.
I would be very grateful, and I would write a great legend, a song for you, yes. I do not even need all of the ceramics now. I could perhaps finish the song first and see if you like it, but I need something to survive.
And he
I
turns
have
to
nothing.
Melee. Do you have any other skills? To the dancer again, sorry.
I know how to make it in the desert if I have water and food. I know how to scavenge for things that will not poison you. I did serve once a caravan. I carried large packs. When the beasts broke down, I dragged them to the stands.
Very well. I would like to offer you a position as my companion on our journey. You would have to pass it with Narissa, but I can't see why not.
Thank you.
You have to work your upkeep, of course.
Yes, of course. I know how to survive. I just need food and water.
Melee, would you mind introducing her to Narissa and persuading?
And Melee's already pulling her pack off her shoulder and she's pulling out some of her rations to share them. Here you go.
And you can spend rations are tracked. It counts as food and water. One use is 1 day's worth. So you can give her as many of your 3 days worth of rations as you would like.
For the time being, I'll just give her enough, like one use.
One use.
Yeah. Just so she's not, on the cusp of starvation or
You can
whatever
see
she's
her
saying.
lips are incredibly cracked and parched. So the first thing she does, in between thanking you, is take some precious sips of water. And then she sighs. And I want to cut over to Narissa and Zalus and see what they're doing before we bring you all together.
Go on, Sam, because I've got an idea for something else in a second.
All right. I think Narissa has been quietly watching all of this going on, and there's nothing that she's heard or seen that has really kind of changed her mind on this. So I'd say, like, as soon as Maylee comes over and is about to introduce their maybe new traveling companion, she stops in there and says, 100 souls a day try to enter this grand city, and I am not interested in helping any one of them. She turns to the young dancer and she says, we are not heading into the city. We're heading out to the desert. Perhaps you could find your fortune elsewhere.
Yes, the desert. I can follow you, I can help, I can carry.
It was not an invitation. You are dismissed.
There's a flicker of recognition, not of you necessarily, but just a familiarity with this situation. Any hope that had been building with Mei Li and with Raka, it suddenly all comes crashing down. And she's got like her hands clasping some dried Bosrog rations, some jerky to her chest, and the little tiny canteen of water that she sips on again as she shrinks back from Narissa's shadow.
As she does so, she almost trips over the halfling who's now standing behind her.
She lets out a gasp.
Oh, I think she might have some uses. You never know. Why don't we bring her?
I think that she will be really useful. She can forage. She's been in the desert. She can carry heavy things. I think she should be part of our group,
She can
at
look
least
after
for a little bit.
If she can look after herself, then why are you sharing your rations?
Because she's in need. And
1,000
she's not
souls-
currently in the desert.
1,000 souls a day are in need outside of these city walls. 100 try and enter every single day. She is no different from the rest of them. But I need you and your rations out in that desert. She just looks at the dancer and says, hand them over.
But I will die.
I will not ask again.
You have an ability, right?
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily going to pick it up straight
try to use
away,
it.
but commanding presence. I can instill fear and service in the weak.
You can see that there's a moment where she looks towards the edge of the merchant camp, out towards the shrub plains that stretch westward and southward. And it's fight or flight for that moment. And you think there's the look of flight in her eyes. Can I run? And then she sees the sun glint off of the gilded edge, the metal blade that you have,
That has
Narissa.
found its way into my hand.
And she turns back to Mei Li and she holds up the canteen, the water skin. And she holds out the handful of Bosrog jerky. And she says, I appreciate your kindness. There is not enough of it. in these deserts, but I do not want to cause any troubles. Please, here, here.
And Meili looks at her, and you can tell like she's clearly her happy-go-lucky exterior is starting to look pretty pissed off, but she says, like through gritted teeth, "No, those are yours. I gave them to you. You keep them." And then she turns to Nerissa, and she says, "She will keep the rations, whether or not she travels with us. I gave them to her. It was my choice." And then she's like giving you like the stare down, like, "Bitch, try me."
We are already delayed. This is a waste of time. Prepare the kank.
She looks down, Rilka, at her hands, the canteen. She looks to you, Meili. And as she tugs up her scarf to cover the scar on her face again, cover the bridge of her nose, you can hear her breath kind of blowing at that scarf, and just very quietly beneath that breath, "Thank you."
And Meili like turns, she gives her like a sad smile, like, she's clearly upset she couldn't help her more, and she stomps off towards the kank.
Rilka immediately darts to head to the far end of camp into the shade to eat some food. At this point in the day, it's still very early morning, but you've got your map, you've got all your travel supplies. Meili's getting the kink ready. You can see that there is a small group arriving from the city towards the merchant camp. They've not gotten here yet. You can tell they're on their way down this beaten road. It's just dirt path that leads from the city because four of them are half giants. They're massive, about 10 feet tall, 9 to 10 feet tall Goliaths. Their bodies, barely wearing any clothes, covered in tattoos to the point where you can barely see only the skin in between ink. And all of them carry on their sides these kind of leather belts that they wear, these massive stone clubs. And Nerissa, you would know that these are common guards for the Templars of Nibenay.
Nerissa rolls her shawl up a little bit further up towards her neck and towards her mouth. And she stands strategically on the other side of the kank as Meili gets it ready. And occasionally under her breath just chides her. "Quicker. Come on."
And the other side, you're just hearing a bunch of like swearing and just tightening belts and.
As Meili is finishing packing the kank, Zalus, was there anything that you wanted to do before the group starts to leave camp here and set off on your journey?
I don't think so. Or we don't actually have. I don't think my character actually has any money to talk to the other merchant and buy.
You've spent most of your resources
rations.
collectively on this journey.
Sure, cool. No, I think Zalus is waiting to start and is in some ways just hanging around, sort of in the shadow of the kank as well, and slightly annoyed that we didn't have another body to explore with, use as cannon fodder, or in general exploit, as is the way of the desert. Sometimes you got to eat or be eaten. There's these things, but if we're not taking it, we're not taking it. That's fine. There's others we can do that with. That's fine.
I have a question in regards to magic and stuff. Now, I understand how magic happens in this, and you said there is like plant life around us, sparse areas of plant life.
Mhm.
How reasonable is it to kind of like dig up said plant life and pot it, and bring it with me?
If you can find a living plant, well, and Tom, you're the gardener, so
Yeah.
you probably know more about this than I do, a lot more. But if you were to find a living plant or a particularly lush like bunch of flowers or something like that, that might be doable. Gathering up the grass that's almost dead already and removing it from the
Okay,
earth,
it's grass. Okay.
it's grass. But
Yeah.
but while you're around it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's alive.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay.
So as you finish packing up your camp before these half giants arrive, we're gonna make our first weather roll. The worst possible weather roll is where we're starting today.
It looks like we're not going anywhere.
Um, and this is gonna pick up and it's going to come into effect after you travel. But I guess Zalus, you're probably the one most in tune with the weather, right?
Yeah.
With the sands.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can feel it in the air. It feels like a normal day to everyone else, hot, but not too unusual for this time of the year. It's a sort of electric feeling. Any of your hair, that's where you feel it the most. Your fingernails, you can feel it there too. There is a storm coming, probably a sandstorm, but something more than that too. And you don't think that it's going to wait until tomorrow. You don't think that it's going to wait until nightfall. You can't see it in the distance yet, but it's coming.
I think we should definitely be moving today. The air seems clear. I've been wrong at times, but I feel the worst will come and go. But today is a good moment. We should travel onwards and we should move forwards. As long as no one carries any ill burden or ill omen with them, we should be fine.
Melee, face of thunder, climbs up onto the king.
There goes the luck. Okay. Can I have a hand up, please?
Narissa just gets up past him.
Gonzalez helps him
you.
up onto the.
Thank you, Zalus. Thank you, Melee.
Anytime.
Right.
The kank shifts uncomfortably. It's a segmented insect mount. It's large enough and has enough different pieces of its abdomen that all four of you can kind of get your own hump. For those of you who haven't ridden on kanks before, it does take some getting used to. The creature moves steadily. You do sway back and forth, but occasionally, depending on the terrain, it skitters forward. And when it skitters, you're bumping up and down, you're sliding off. It's also very aware of its environment, capable of carrying a lot of your extra gear to, should you hopefully, if you're successful, find some things worth bringing back from your adventure. As you leave the merchant camp behind, we're going to go ahead and explore. We're going to move to the map here. And the way this works is you get a certain number of hexes you can travel a day. A lot of that is dependent on the weather, which sometimes can change, but may not change. And you each get one wilderness action, one exploration action per day. So the actions that you can use at any point during your travel, there's the explore action, which lets you search a large area and either find a safe location, something that might help you make camp or find shelter, or an interesting location, something that might provide you an opportunity or mystery to unravel, clues. There's the scout action, which lets you move ahead of the party to reveal 2 adjacent hexes on this map. You're pretty aware of the hexes surrounding the city, but once you get further out, that might be helpful. There's the supply action that lets you hunt or forage for food and water. And then there's the make camp action, lets you build a camp so that you can rest at night, consume your rations, and recover. So
when you say that each of us can take, is it each individual can take an actual
each
action
individual gets one
okay.
wilderness action at any point during your travel for the day, which may be a short travel on your first day of journey.
Okay.
So I've got the natural explorer. Can I use that sort of right at the start as we're setting off, or perhaps given how close we are at hexes to have maybe done that the day before in the night to have an idea of where things are on our first day because it's not too far?
Yeah. So
Or at
natural
any point you think
explorer,
that's- yeah,
when you use the explore action,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking to explore.
yeah,
because then you roll twice, right? And then
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I take
Yeah.
the lower result, which is more likely to be good for you.
yeah, that's what I think we should do. That given that the weather is about to be interesting. So
What are you saying? It's gonna be fine.
as
Yeah.
long
gonna
as
be
nobody
fine.
brings any ill omen with them, they'll be fine.
Not an ill
Woof.
omen.
Woof.
You just call me.
So when you set off, what direction are you setting off in?
South.
Do southwest into the desert? Or do you want to do
Yeah.
southeast and hold into the shrublands for a little longer?
I want to go southwest, just a bit further away from the city.
Get further away from the city.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I'm not saying nothing. I'm not saying.
All right. And Zalus, you wanted to use the explore action with your ability.
Yeah, possible. Yeah.
All right. So are you searching as you travel, and we'll kind of narrate this once we decide what action you want to take and see how things go. When you travel, are you on the lookout for an interesting location or a safe location?
I think because I've got the idea of the possibility of whether I think I'm going to be looking for a safe location to start off with, given that. I think I'm probably maybe at the front of the Kank, or one behind Melee if she's at the front, sort of riding it and showing us where we're going. And I'll be on the lookout, and I'll be sort of sifting through some sounds and seeing which way the wind blows it, and see if there's any currents or anything I can pick up on, and what I can see out on the horizons. So yeah.
All right. So you set off the first leg of your first day of your journey, and you choose to leave the shrublands. Even though they continue to the west, they continue to the south. You break southwest into the desert, and it's a descent into the desert beyond Nibenay. The high red cliffs near the city give way to these steep slopes of sliding sand. They go down into what quickly becomes all around you endless dunes. The sun is beating harder and harder down. It's rising higher and higher up, so that great dark sphere in the sky dominates the horizon to your west. You can hear the sounds of maybe a hunting horn or some other kind of horn back in the direction of the city, but by that point, you've already traveled several leagues. You all are on the back of the Kank, and the Kank melee stops several times to rest, but far less than you would. And every time it does, it kind of turns its insectoid head back up to you, looks at you with its many eyes, and it clacks its mandrels. You've seen this before. This is the Kank looking for assurement from its rider that it is carrying you the right way, that you're happy with what it's doing. And it also helps if it gets a little bit of food each time.
So yeah, I'll have its feed in my pack. So I just give it like I'm giving it like little treats as we go, and scritching it, letting it know that it's doing a good job.
Because I only learn from positive reinforcement, not negative reinforcement.
And you all see Melee kind of with this bond with this beast, and then it'll skitter forward and up and over a dune and up and over a dune. And then there's another long descent. This time you're going into a longer desert valley with large mounds of sand that surround you in all directions. And Zalus, you've been keeping a lookout for something in the distance that you might be able to use, might be able to find shelter if you need it. You realize you did see a dark shadow somewhere beyond this next tall dune. You're not sure exactly what it is, but right now you can hear the howling, and that howling is the sandstorm. It is the wind. It's a shriek. Anyone who's spent time in the desert, you know the sound of a quickly approaching sandstorm. Zalus, that's not the only howl in that wind, though. There's other sounds too. Howls of something bestial, maybe something's bestial.
We should make our best speed for the next June. There's ill omen has indeed come with us, from who I don't know, but it's definitely with us. Over the next June, there's something, I saw it. We should make our way best speed and find shelter if possible.
Right. Melee gives like a like clicks, you know, like you would a horse to like get it. She does that for the king to try and be like, scoot, go.
The Kank suddenly lowers its weight closer to the ground. It segments and bends all of its limbs a little bit more, and it starts using its pincers to dig at the sand to clear a safer, faster path forward. It begins moving faster than you've seen it move. You've felt it move so far towards this dune, but now you can all hear it. It's not just bestial howling in those winds that are approaching. You can start to see the sand washing down from the top of that mound into this little valley that you're in. This howling, there's laughter in it too, this sort of wild, untamed cackling. And it's not one voice, it's many.
Don't like that. Nope, nope, nope. Melee's just trying to get as low as possible to like mitigate any wind resistance.
Yeah, I mean,
Try-
Raka's kind of
Go.
got his thing, and he's trying to clutch, hunker down as the wind brings up, and he says, "There's anyone else here laughing, or is that just the wind?"
I hope it's the wind. I'm just gonna pretend it's the wind. She's like,
As fast as
James,
you can.
roll 1d10 for me.
1d10. God.
Yep.
Think low thoughts.
3.
Uh, you continue to ride the beast now up into the edge of the sandstorm, and you know it's just going to get worse. It's a wall of darkness ahead of you, stinging darkness, and those little pelts of silt and sand, they're striking you and the Kank once you get to the top of that valley. You can just see ahead of you that what you'd seen before, that dark silhouette, that possible shelter. You can see what it is now. Its features are covered in the storm, but it is a half crumbled statue. It's very tall, probably about 50 feet tall. Looks like it's crafted from obsidian, carved obsidian, carefully chipped. And this is a statue of an entity that you no doubt have heard of, the dragon. And there is only one in Dark Sun. It is a tall, massive, giant, two-legged, two-armed draconic being. And many of the city-states in the world that you live in offer up massive numbers of sacrifices to it annually to keep the dragon from coming to their gates. That's what's staring down at you. This statue, one of its hands crumbled away, the other still holding on to an orb in this carving. And it does provides some shelter from the storm. It's tall. At the very least, you could put your backs up to it. That's what you see immediately once you get to the top, but the storm is still coming.
Quickly into. Can I see the? It's the right hand that's missing, right?
That's right.
Can I see the right hand like by the statue? Or is it like washed, like gone into
You can
the dunes
see
somewhere?
one of the talons of a finger from the right hand sticking up from a mound of sand, half buried.
Okay. Quick, put the kank by the hand. Put the hunker in low. Put the kank by the hand. Do it. Do it now, quickly.
Tokyo Drift the kank into the shelter.
And
Hop down.
at which point I want to use one of my things to transmute earth, where I can sculpt up to 10 feet of earth into a different earthen material. Basically, use the sand and the some of the obsidian all together to try and get at what is, if we're all hunkered down, even on the kanks, like I'm imagining that's sort of 6-8 feet tall. So some kind of like what looks like it's part of earth and dust and a little bit of shelter, but mostly a sort of
It's like a sand
like a
igloo.
windbreak. Yeah, like a sand igloo, but looks like it's just naturally occurring, and that is where the hand is buried under, and the hand is perhaps a little bit bigger to sort of camouflage us from whatever might be coming after us as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love this.
That
So when you cast an elemental spell, you gain a level of fatigue. You mark that in your inventory.
Yep.
So Melee, Narissa, and Raka, you all get underneath this crooked finger from the statue that's sticking out of the sand, almost like a little obsidian bridge above you. And then Zalus, you can describe exactly what this looks like as you draw on the natural energy from the plane of Earth to reshape this around you. Do you use like a specific charm? Is there,
Yes, so I've got it's an earth charm that's bonded to me. It's flesh to stone. No, sorry, transmute earth is an earth charm that I have, which is bonded to me in my inventory.
what do you
Um,
imagine this charm looks like?
uh, I think that it's actually it's almost like a small glass vial, like really tiny, and in it it has a small, really like a grain of sand sized like diamond, worth nothing to anybody. A grain of sand's worth of like mud, obsidian, and then just various different. If you shook it, it would look like it's multiple, like almost like popping candy or something. But each one is an individual sort of tiny flint of a piece of earth, and as he looks at it and casts the spell, the element that he chooses to make actually shines just a little bit brighter for a second before calming down into the mix of little elements that he's got, which is like this big in his hand.
I'm not sure if any of you knew that Zalus was capable of this, but over the course of about a minute, creates this sort of shelter for you. You're entirely trapped within walls of sand. The stone above you kind of fades away into this igloo of sorts. You can hear the wind still howling outside, those other voices howling outside as well, but you don't feel the wind on your body. It's calm in here. You and the Kank. The Kank is probably maybe the most nervous looking. It looks around feeling trapped, Melee. You can tell it feels trapped in here.
I'm trying to chill it out so it doesn't, give us away or break whatever it is that Zalus has just done. So I'm solely focused on the kank right now rather than everything.
Narissa immediately starts looking around. Whether folks notice it or not, she grasps the hilt again of her gladius, but she doesn't like draw it from her back or anything like that. But she looks around at people, checks them over with her eyes, checks the kank, touches her nostrils for a second and doesn't feel anything. And then she looks over at Zalus.
I do what I must. And this is why you brought me.
What is this?
This is what is keeping us from whatever is outside.
She shifts a little uncomfortably. She settles back down, just beside the hulk of the cank.
Can we touch the obsidian statue from where we are? Like, is it like?
If you were to maybe like climb up on the cank or like climb to the highest point of the sand that you're standing on and reach your hand up, you could just touch the finger.
Okay.
No, you're right now, you're underneath the collapsed
Okay.
finger
Oh,
of the
that
hand
it's
that
like
fell
that,
off.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Raka will go to Zalis. What did you say about bad omens?
This may not be the best of groups you've found for us, my old friend.
I guess I should try better next time.
I'll shuffle in because we're all trying to stay in the thing, and just so only Raka can hear, say, I do hope the money is going to be worth it for you this time.
So do I. I have
One
faith.
way or the other, we can see your faith fulfilled, I think.
It will be worth it for both of us. For all of us.
All who survive, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
And just listening to that, Narissa looks kind of sideways at glancing at people quietly.
There's an increased amount of howling and growling now to just overhead. And all of a sudden, some of the sand that's been packed into the surface begins to sprinkle down like rain into your eyes and onto your clothes from above. You hear what sounds like claws scraping at earth, scraping at stone, pattering over the sand above you. And within those howls and those growls, there's a moment of stillness. The sound of the windstorm outside ceases, and you hear a deep, low voice echo out. Yinagu, Yinagu. And then the wind picks up again. It blows so fiercely that it threatens to knock down your shelter, Salas. You can see some of the sand starting to spill inward, but now it's coming from the other side, like the wind has shifted directions. That cackling and that howling begins to get further away.
Yet be fully moved along.
What could they have been? Any ideas?
I've heard tell of an occasion, but nobody really lives to explain what they've seen. Best not encounter on our first day out.
I concur.
When we've yet to try our mettle.
So, Zalis, how long do you think the storm will keep on raging?
We'd make it free and clear, but it seems we give it an hour to be safe. I know the sun will be higher, but we can work with that. Better to be warm than bleached bones. Salis is just going to sort of take depending on how big it is, sort of slightly walk around the edge, like touching the sides to make sure that nothing is actually going to collapse and like fall in on them and die. So.
For a couple of minutes, it does seem like the shaking, the falling sand, the shifting at the edge, the border of your shelter calms. And that sound, the storm, anything else that's with the storm, it begins to get further away too. You don't hear it all around you. You hear it to somewhere to the south, somewhere to the southwest. And after about an hour of you hunkering down in this sand igloo, the storm passes. You don't hear anything unusual outside your tiny little shelter, but it's probably extremely hot inside, like you're being baked inside a clay oven a little bit after that hour.
Getting sweaty in here.
Are we trying our luck?
It's either that or we bake to death in here.
So then Zalus is going to go up to a part of the wall, on top of the kank as towards the head as possible, and start to very slowly like carve, like you would with sand when you don't want it to fall out. Just carve small like bits until you could see a hole, so you could see out to see if there's anything, and if there's nothing there, start to give it a bit more space so that the kank could come out.
The kank has been kept steady and calm by Mei Lee over the course of the hour. It actually gets used to its environment after about 15 minutes. But once you make it clear that you want it, you want to mount it, you want to get out of here, the kank seems to know. You no reason to believe that a kank understands the complexities of the common language, maybe a few commands, but it seems to understand intentions. And when you climb up on top of it, Zalus, it extends its segmented legs several times more than you believed maybe it could be possible. Like it hides extra joints when it doesn't need them, and it raises you up all the way to the top of your shelter. You're able to dig out the sand, and once you get a little bit of it collapsing, everything comes down like an hourglass spilling to the bottom of this little shelter until there's a hole, and coming through that hole is the incredibly bright, hot sun. The storm has passed, but it's much hotter now than it was this morning.
So, to cast anything as a thing, I need a bit of vegetation around me, right?
You either need vegetation or you need people. That people
Oh,
can be
yeah.
yourself,
I forgot about the
but
people part.
yeah.
Don't do
Yeah.
it, Flakes. I swear to
Okay.
God.
No, and there's no vegetation around us at the moment. It's just sand.
Where you are right now, it's just sand.
Okay.
There's one piece of vegetation around.
Yeah, I know, but no, I'm okay. So as the creature comes up and tall, and I suppose the finger gets closer to us, Raka will just extend his arm and gently touch the obsidian, and just wait, just feel it, and temptation twitches in his fingers, but then he takes a breath, and his hand comes down, and prepares for the journey.
You can see Raka, the rest of the statue that mostly still stands beyond your shelter. That dragon, the orb that the statue carries, which isn't a real orb, it is the carving of an orb. You can see very detailed carved runes on the orb. It must have been carved, this must have been created by someone who looked upon the dragon long enough to actually see the orb, because those runes are real. There's real magic in those runes, and you can feel the shadow of magic here at the foot of the dragon.
How high up is the orb?
About 35 feet.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh. What have I got in my inventory? Paper's rare in this place, right?
Yeah, people
Like
use all
super
kinds of
rare.
things to write, but paper itself is super real. Processed paper, parchment. If you find it, it's usually from ancient society.
Yeah. I don't have anything to. Okay, this is a kind of thingy question, right? If I do cast detect magic say on these runes, and I discover the nature. Is that do I instantly remember all the runes? You know, like what it is, what it what they feel like. You know, the shape and everything. Will that be kind of like a permanent kind of memory of it, or is it just like a kind you just know it's
And
magical, the nature of the magic, and then that's it?
you know the nature of the magic, but to actually get the spell, to actually learn the spell and copy it down at least, you would need to be able to get up there and read it very clearly. You can make out a few of the runes enough to know that they're real. This isn't some artistic, fake language that they did just for this statue.
Yeah.
But you do have, I think you have check out your wild talents too. You all have
I
them.
was thinking that I getting up there for me isn't a problem. It's
It's getting back down.
it's getting back down. I mean, kinda not. It's kinda.
I've got,
You know,
Tom, I've got a 10-foot pole, right? You cling on to the end, I'll just like yoink you up there.
yeah. I can just grab hold of it. I'm not worried about getting back down. I mean, as I would love to do it, but thematically, it's like I imagine everyone else is just ready to go, and this will take time. And he's tempted, but I think he'll stay quiet, at least for now. Just
What are
because
you
of the sheer
doing?
willingness.
You hear
Oh,
behind you.
Oh, I am observing the statue. That is all.
We can hardly carry it with us now, can we?
No. But we can carry the knowledge that it provides.
She just turns and walks off.
That is the longest conversation I've had with her.
A landmark for the way back, perhaps.
Indeed.
Mark it on your map for a possible return venture.
Absolutely.
Give me a mind roll. So just roll 1d20. Let's compare it to your mind.
Okay. 16. Nope, fail.
Okay. So there's something nagging you about the statue, its position, where it's facing, the direction back towards the city of Nibenay.
Mm-hmm.
You're not aware of this statue. You've not seen it before, but as you kind of mark it on your map, you feel it has to have some purpose. It had to have had some purpose. Maybe it still does, but you can't quite puzzle out yet what it is. A mystery.
I will contemplate it.
Ponder the orb, Tom.
Ponder in the orb.
Ponder the orb. You're all able to pack yourselves back up on the tank again, and the storm has passed, as I said, to the southwest beyond your line of vision. And you still have the remainder of your day to continue traveling, exploring. Zalus has used his wilderness action, but any of you can use a wilderness action, or you can move another hex. You can continue traveling.
I'd want to push on.
Yeah, at least just get away. Like the statue's giving Maylee the heebie-jeebies, and the laughing storm is freaking her out. So she's like, "Nope, let's go. Don't like it here."
Yeah, I mean, Raka's eyes are almost constantly kind of staring back at it, just flickering to it every so often. It's visibly nagging at him.
The path forward through the desert, whichever way you twist around and up and down dunes, somehow it seems, Raka, that even though it gets further in the distance and further in the distance, and you can't see the dragon's face anymore, it's always there, a dark sliver on the horizon anytime you look behind you. What direction do you all travel next?
Oh, we're in the unknown now.
Southeast.
Yeah, because the storm went southwest,
Yeah.
right?
Southwest. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
have told, and everyone would have known that already, but I definitely would have informed the group. Let's not go that way, just in case.
Let's not.
Not go
All
there.
right.
Just
So you travel through the hottest part of the afternoon, and it gets hotter still. You know that when the temperature's like this, when the sun's this strong, that the wisest thing is to not push yourselves as hard as you can. You will get fatigue if you travel further today, but you can travel further today if you're willing to accept a little fatigue in your lives. The weather, besides its heat, it remains calm, but you can occasionally hear the winds to the southwest, and you can see something else too. Far in the distance, you're not sure of the source, but somewhere to the west, as you travel deeper into the desert, you see the rising plumes of what looks like dark gray smoke. It almost looks like clouds, even though clouds are kind of strange to see in Athos. And as it reaches up to the sky, it spreads and it spreads. It gets wider and then it dissipates. And it's continuous, this stream of pluming smoke to the west. The desert to the south, to the east, all around you, it feels like it could stretch on forever. Occasionally, you pass by the bleached bones of a large beast. You find the ragged remains of what might have been a party of travelers, merchants, or even a family, but all that remains of them are scraps of clothes. Anything worth anything has been stripped from their bodies, half buried in the sand. And you're pushing on and on and on. And as you do, what are you all doing on the back of the kank?
I'd like to think that Raka has essentially turned his entire body so he's facing behind instead of in front, and he's just looking in the distance. So he's on like one of those backward facing bus seats. You know, that no one likes, but he's just looking behind, pondering,
It it
wondering.
happens in a moment, Raka, where the smoke from the west just kind of drifts eastward a little bit. And when it does, it crosses that sliver of the statue leagues behind you. And when it crosses it and then passes beyond it, you don't see the statue anymore.
Okay. He almost twitches at that. And he sits up straight for the briefest of moments and then eases back down.
The rest of you are starting to feel the exhaustion from the day. Mid-afternoon, you could push on, but you are feeling the heat for sure, especially if you don't spend a lot of time traveling in the desert. You find yourself having to work to cover your skin to protect yourself.
Yeah, I think Meili is like fully covered. Like I think only maybe like her fingers, like fingertips are sticking out, like ends of her hands. The rest of it is all hidden under scarves and coats and desert clothing. But she's focusing on like pushing on until we can find a spot to stop and camp, and then she's gonna I'm gonna use my supply action to try and just scavenge up something because I gave some of my food away earlier.
Yeah.
All right, so you'll use your action to supply, and this is just roll 1d6.
Okay. 6.
Wow,
Is that
maximum
good or
roll.
bad?
It's good. High is good in this case.
Oh, okay.
Roll 1d4 for me.
Okay. 1d4. Hold on 1 second. 4.
Oh,
Ooh.
wait, is this the game? Is this the
Wait.
game
is this
where
finally
roll
the
20 is
game?
nice to Susie?
Wait. Is it?
It was bound to happen. Susie, so you're at the head of the kank, and you're
Mhm.
moving through the desert. And you can see there's this large stone, dark red stone pillar. It looks like it's mostly collapsed. It looks natural. It doesn't look like something that somebody's crafted, but it's like a bone, like a spine that's sticking up from the desert sands. And as you're passing it by, you don't see anything of value there, and you continue to ride onward. You happen to glance back, and you've been looking for anything besides the occasional flying reptile high above, probably following you, hoping that you die. You
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen any beasts this last leg of the journey, but when you glance behind, on the other side, the shaded side of that red stone, you see a circle of scorched sand. Some of it turned to little tiny flecks of diamond, not large enough to be worth anything, but it sparkles even in the dim, indirect light. And at the center of that little patch of sand, you see a large cactus bloom sticking out of the ground. You can see it's got these strange sort of alien roots that dig down into the sand. And the top of this spiny plant opens up slightly. You can see a few colorful light blue and light pink flowers sticking out of the top. It's a splash of color in a lifeless desert. It might be something.
Yeah. Melee immediately she's like, hold on everyone a sec. And she's like gonna reroute the can to just head over to that shade. And then she's gonna enjoy the shade for a second. Before she's like she points at the cactus. She's like, "Can we can get water from this, right?"
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
What
I'm just
what what surrounds it? So
just
you can see
shrugs.
Wasn't it the
there's
wasn't it
like
the
isn't
yeah,
there
the
a
red
ring of like
diamond?
diamond, like blasted diamond all the way around it?
Imagine like sand that has been blackened as though it's been scorched with little flecks of sparkles like diamonds in the sand. And there's a ring of it about 20 feet wide that surround
Oh.
this rather lush cactus right in the middle.
Slap bang
Two
in
types of players. There
the-
was me like, oh, that's a nice bit of description. And James is like,
Yeah.
You're in.
Warning,
And then
warning.
me that goes, "Is this a red button?"
Oh, it's the reddest, most sparkly button you can
Bam!
possibly
Yeah,
think
as
of.
soon as she, and then noticing that as soon as Melee says you can eat, you can drink from that, right? Salis is going to stop, think for a second, and go. I think if approached carefully, you can definitely have a great many bonuses from it. You should feel free.
Melee is gonna get that 10-foot pole that she has, and she's gonna just poke into the sand around the cactus, the like the blackened sand to make sure it's not like, you know, hazardous in any way. Because it could be jagged, it could be a pit. She doesn't know, like quicksand.
You
Just gonna
extend your arms out and you tap the sand with the 10-foot pole. So you're able to close like about half the distance between the edge of that ring and this plant, this large
Mhm.
plant. And you can tap a couple of places with the pole. First two places feel pretty solid, and you shift and you tap a third place, and then you hear the running sand, and some of the sand starts to fall inward, like there's some sort of hollow, at least there beneath it. You can see the rest of it just sort of settling over part of the hole that forms afterwards.
Hmm. Okay. So she's gonna use the pole to suss out where looks stable, and she's gonna really whack the stuff that looks stable just to make sure it can withstand some weight or pressure.
Yeah,
And
it's
then slowly approach.
the Kank watches you with many, many curious eyes. You start whacking the sand, and it feels pretty stable to you. You hit it pretty hard with the pole.
Okay.
I love the idea that actually Raka does exactly what Tom just does, but doesn't say anything.
Watch.
That's such a nice.
and then
Just
can
watch.
And then can I do a spider? I can do a Spider-Man. Can I shoot some webbing from my?
Spider-Man.
Yeah. This is
Ew.
the wild talent I have. I want to shoot some thick webbing. That's literally what it says. Across, like, to create like a little footbridge.
Yeah, I like this idea. So, wild talents in Dark Sun, for anyone who doesn't know or is watching, they're psionic abilities. Everybody has them, and not just people. Plants have them, animals have them. Psionics are infused into living creatures. And so, wild talents are just an individual's specific kind of natural abilities. Psionics can be trained too, but wild talents you were born with.
Do they cost anything to use?
So when you use a wild talent, you make a mind save, which Sam, you can do now. And on a failure, you can't use the ability again until you rest.
Got you. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
D20, yeah.
A D20. You're hoping to roll equal or under your mind.
Come on, 12. No.
It's not that this doesn't work. It's just that you have burned your use of this talent again until you rest.
I'm tired.
So you get to use your web talent. You can describe what you think this looks like, and we'll go from there.
It's just a Spider-Man. Which Spider-Man is it? Does it naturally come out from? There was that movie recently where the three of them got together.
Maguire.
The Tobey Maguire
Yeah,
one.
And he was just like,
Maguire.
I just shoot out my skin. So yeah, she takes off a glove, and then.
And where are you trying to lay the web? Like, how are you trying to set it up? What's your
So
goal
that
here?
Melee can walk over it.
So you start, you tap the pole, you slam the pole to check the weight, the support of this particular area of the sand. And you start to walk, and then Narissa shoots a bridge of webbing over the same area. It covers the sand all the way out to the plant.
Yeah, hopefully so that it's like it can start on the good ground that we're on, and then it can end like at the plant.
At the plant. Yeah, I like that. Like a little bridge.
Yeah. Gross. Amelie has like, she sees the web come out and like on the ground, and she's kind of like gross. But she'll walk on it anyway. And then she gets close enough, she's gonna just poke the plant with the pole just in case, because you never know in Dark Sun. So she's just gonna make sure that it's not carnivorous.
You get 10 feet, so halfway across the web bridge, and you extend the pole as much as you can, holding it all the way out, and you just tap the plant. And on the second tap, the plant opens up, the spines open up, and you can see within, just running down the interior of its shell, is a mix of these roots that go down into the ground and this juice. And I can only describe it as the blend of pink juice and blue juice. You can smell it from where you are. It smells so sweet, and it runs like water. Sometimes it clumps up into slightly more solid form on some of the roots, but otherwise it's running down into the ground. But when the plant opens up like a prize just for you, all of the sand in the knot area that you're standing in begins to shift. Everything around you, even those of you who are standing on the outside of the circle, you can feel the ground shaking. And there's this sound like 100 giant walnuts cracking open at the same time. And you can see shooting out of the sand what looks like dangling skeletons, humanoid skeletons, all different sizes. Interwoven within them are these vines, these roots, and the roots have eyes, and the roots have teeth. And these skeletons are jangling from the roots as they start to reach out for Mei Li, who's halfway across. And I would love for all of you to make a dexterity roll. Dexterity save for initiative.
Listen, gang, this thing's gonna be really tasty once we kill it.
It's gonna
Or
be
we die. Either way, our
amazing.
suffering is ended. Okay.
Just dexterity.
And so the way initiative works in this system is you roll a dexterity save, and if you succeed, you go in the group before the enemies or enemy. And if you fail, you go in the group after.
Oh.
So I'm guessing that's a success for.
This game, Susie. It is this game.
It's this game.
Roll 20 giveth, it
You,
taketh away.
you found it.
A one is like a critical success essentially in this system.
it's
So
just-
Oh, that's right.
it's as good as you can roll.
Yeah, I forgot.
As good as you can
Just
roll.
done crits.
Whereas I've got 19.
Yeah, well.
So that's a success for Raka, and for Melee, is that a success for? I'm guessing it's not a success for Narissa.
She is not a quick girl.
Definitely not for Zalis. All right, so you feel the ground rumble, the sand drops, and then exploding from beneath, these eye stalk roots with teeth interwoven into the skeletons of other travelers who have attempted to sup here before, rise from the ground, jangling in the air, and begin to reach and reach and reach for Melee. And we're in combat. So Melee, it's going to start with your turn. And on your turn, you can use, I'll pop open here the rules if you want to take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Various actions, you get 3 action points here. Many times it's movement and one other thing, but you can kind of mix and match. What do you do as these roots start grabbing for you first?
Okay. She is a close range fighter with her scimitar. So she poked, she saw the roots and everything start coming up, and she's like, ha, okay, I'll close this distance. She drops the pole into the webbing, pulls out her scimitar, charges towards like the source of the roots in the middle, and she's just gonna take a slice with her
You going
scimitar.
right for the cactus in the middle?
Yep.
All right. So you rush the center plant, at least it seems like maybe this is the heart. You don't know entirely what's underneath. As more and more the sand is falling away on either side of you, it's just this webbing that's kind of compacted this sand bridge that you're standing on that's helping it keep together. The webbing's actually keeping its shape, but barely. You can start to feel the ground give way underneath your feet as you're running. And as the more the sand falls away to your left and to your right, you're seeing more of what's beneath this network of roots. It doesn't just connect to roots. It connects to these large, imagine if a fly trap had a spiky exterior, and then when it opened up, just a pool of what looks like glowing green acid. You see these mouths connected to the network open up and start to close, open and close, open and close, and the sand's falling away, and you rush the plant in the middle.
Yep.
What weapon are you using?
My stone scimitar.
All right. So when you make an attack, you just roll the damage. That's all you do. You roll the damage, and we compare it to the armor of the thing that you're attacking.
All right. 1d8. That's a 1.
I mean,
Had
you
to
got a
come from me
reroll.
eventually.
Didn't you get a reroll?
I did get a reroll from Pope.
Yeah.
Do it
Do
now.
you want to use it now?
I would like to use it now, yes.
Go
Thank you,
for it.
Pope. A 5. That's
5
better.
is better. And does your scimitar, do you have mastery or any special abilities that come with it?
Okay, it deals +1 damage against targets without armor, and it has bleed 7. So on damage rolls of 7 or higher, which I do not have, the target uses 1d4 strength, loses 1d4 strength at the start of their next turn. But I didn't proc that.
So you rush and you looks like you're going to get there, and then there's a vine root that reaches up and it wraps around your leg and starts to pull you off the side of the bridge. With your reroll, how do you free yourself and bury your blade in this plant? And I'll tell you what happens next.
So she's running, she's pulled the scimitar, the vine whips around her ankle and tries to pull her leg, and as it like starts to yoink her off balance, she goes what, and then just slices it and cuts her ankle free. And then with the momentum of like the strike, she just follows through and hits the the main chunk of her original target. So it looks kind of goofy from a distance, like she's like flailing all over the place, but she does manage to land a hit.
When you strike right down into the juice of that opened wide plant, the plant closes, Melee. It popped open for you, and you strike right in the middle. You think you hear what sounds like the cry of a beast. It's this high-pitched, long, almost musical whine. And when that whine snaps off and you're pulling your blade out, it closes on the blade. And right now, you've got the haft of your weapon, but the blade of it is stuck inside this plant.
Okay. I imagine she's got like one foot up on it trying to pull it out. She's like screaming.
And it's spiny on the outside. It's a cactus on the outside too, Melee. All right. So the three of you, you all stayed back. Melee went out over the web bridge. Melee approached this plant. You see her burst into action. You see her struggling with the plant at the center of this little bit of land. Raka, it is your turn. What do you do?
I think what I will do is concentrate on Melee and use my wild talent of Bound. And that essentially allows Melee to make a single jump to any place they can see.
Okay, I love this.
And he's going to extend his arm and he's going to just maintain contact with Melee and not even blink. The wind of the sand gets caught in his eye, but even then his eyes still stay wide open and he does not lose concentration. And I want it there in case Melee wants to use it, if you know what I mean.
I love that. Make a mind save for me.
Okay. I succeed.
Excellent. So you retain the ability to use this power again later. Do you think Melee feels anything as you're using your psionic power to boost her ability to leap?
So Melee, I think that not only does she kind of feel like vigor return to her limbs and her legs, but as a downside to that, she gets that icky feeling of someone just eyes just staring into the back of her head just constantly. Like, you know, that icky kind of, there's someone just watching, but it's just there all the time. Those eyes always just staring into you. It's gross.
With the rest of your turn, is there anything else you do? Do you stay back?
Oh yeah, I'm staying back. Yeah, I might even step a bit further back
Yeah,
to
you
make
can do that.
sure I'm well away. Yeah.
So as Melee, you feel these eyes on the back of you. You're trying to pull your axe free. That's when the tendrils reach up about another 10 feet. They were already about 10 feet over the sand. Now they're about 20 feet. They keep reaching and they keep reaching. They stretch, they grow taut, and then they slam and wrap like one of those snap bracelets, but a lot nastier. And there is going to be 3 attacks here. This is going to be compared to your armor. So you'll subtract your armor from this, and the remainder goes to your hit points or your hit protection. So the first attack is definitely going to be versus Melee.
Okay.
3 damage.
So that's reduced to 2 because I've done armor. So the rest goes to my hit protection.
Goes to your hit protection.
Okay.
Then Zalus, one of the roots, snaps and stretches towards you. 2.
So that's going to be, I've got 1 armor, so that goes to 1.
So you'll lose HP. 1 HP.
Mm-hmm.
And then Narissa, the last one for you. 2.
Absorbed both.
So Zalus and Melee roll strength for me,
Okay.
and we'll describe all this.
Some of us have got some armor, just saying.
Yeah, Narissa, traveling with Narissa, maybe this is how she won you over. Hey, there's definitely some resources that Narissa has beyond the average person that you know.
I have failed very much.
All right. 6 is a success. And Narissa, you can describe, once I describe what happens with Zalus and Melee, you can describe how you avoid getting grabbed, how you protect yourself with armor or skill, however you want to imagine it. But as these vines snap around, first Melee, one snaps you, it cracks you along the back and begins to wrap around your chest. You still got the axe buried in this large plant. You can feel it's trying to pull you off the edge of this bridge. How do you avoid getting pulled down and towards it?
I think she uses the fact that her weapon is buried into the plant as like an anchor point. So with the renewed vigor in her legs and her limbs, she just clings on as hard as she can, and it pulls her, and it just cannot pull her. She's just locked in.
The rest of you will see Melee's legs go up into the air as this vine is trying to pull it down into one of these maws, one of these plant mouths below. But you're holding tight onto that axe right now.
Yeah.
Zalus, it doesn't sting as bad as it could, but when it whips around your legs, you feel the vines tighten. You can see the eyes that are along the vines looking up at you. And they've got this sort of yellow color to them. There's no pupils, but you can tell that they're eyes just by the shape of them. And then as the vine tightens around your leg, you onto your back and you begin getting pulled down over the edge into this sliding sand. And as you're getting pulled towards it, you can see one mouth, two mouths, these spiky shell outsides crack open, and there's just a pool of what looks like fluid you do not want to take a bath in on the inside. It is Narissa and Zalus's turn. What do you do?
I feel like Zalus is definitely going to try and react to that straight away, because otherwise, sad times. So he's going to, while this thing's round his legs, he's desperately going to grab another pouch that he's got with another little earth charm, which looks, and pull it out at what looks like a bone made out of sort of limestone, which he's just got like a really tiny one, like he's got an entire bag of it. He's going to crumble it into his hands and put his hands on the vines that are wrapping around his legs, and going to try and cast flesh to stone on this vine. If it could do the entire thing, happy days, but for the most part he's just trying to get this vine, which is target you can touch cannot move and begins to turn to stone, and it can break free at the end of its turn if it succeeds a strength save. And I can cast it on them before they save. Sorry, if you cast a spell on them again before they save, they turn into a living statue. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's a cool spell. You'll gain a second level of fatigue.
I need another fatigue. I've got one more space in my bag. It's not good. But this is the way that goes.
But the spell, it just works. How effective it becomes, we will see. But the immediate effect is when you reach out, you touch that vine that's stuck into your leg. It probably hurts even more for a brief second, Zalus. But when that vine turns to stone and hardens, solidifies, what kind of stone are you turning it to?
Oh, I'm going to turn it into sandstone so that I could kick it off and sort of break it apart and try and scuttle free, effectively.
It continues to stretch. That vine turns to stone and begins to stretch down towards the network, towards where some of these mouths are. And in that moment, you're able to kick your legs into the stone. It kind of crumbles around you. You've got a couple of sandstone shards now sticking out of your leg, but you are free from being pulled down into it for the moment.
Nice.
You have
Breathe.
you have a third action point after you cast a
I've got a
spell.
third action point. Oh, okay. At that point, then I'm just literally gonna, that sort of backwards crab when you're on your back. You sort of
Yep.
kick your legs backwards as you're sort of scuttling backwards away from either onto the web bridge or just away from the vines and the plant.
Raka and Narissa, you'll see ahead of you Zalus get pulled down in, and then after a moment, you hear the sound of stone breaking apart and Crab walking back out of the pit. You see Zalus again. Narissa, it's your turn.
Yeah, I think that initial hit against Narissa it is seemingly as devastating as the attacks to everyone else. Like, it throws her back, but there's an impact, the sound of impact on a hard shell, and as some of her shawls fall back around her shoulders, you can catch a glimpse at the kind of strong carapace that was once housing a 3 queen that she's now wearing, particularly kind of around her torso and across her shoulders. And so she uses that momentum in a kind of more trained fashion to backwards roll out of it, back up onto her feet, quickly and deftly unsheathing her gladius. I want to charge forward and I want to try and chop up the vines that are attacking Melee.
Okay, so you're rushing along the bridge to join Melee and try to free Melee from the vines.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I love it. So go ahead and roll your damage.
That's a 1. Wait!
Yeah.
I have a Metal 2 Mastery. Reroll damage rolls of 2 or lower.
Yep.
2. Is that
You get to
do
roll
I get to
again.
roll again?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Random number generator.
There
Pick
we
a
go.
different number. A 6.
A 6.
pretty
And do
good.
you have it? Does your weapon have any other masteries or abilities besides
Plus 1 damage
metal?
to targets with no armor.
So Melee, you're stretched out, you're holding onto your axe. It's buried in what looked like a cactus. You're being pulled. It feels like you're being stretched on a rack a little bit. And then Narissa comes to your aid with a blade with bits of metal flashing and the sun peeking through the sandstone. You see the flash of gold reflected, and then your blade cuts through not easily. 1, 2, 3, 4 hacks it takes Narissa to cut that vine, and it's one of the thickest vines that's reached out from the network. When it falls, probably still partly loosely wrapped around Melee's legs, the entire area shakes, and you can hear an even higher pitched whine from the thing beneath you. And I think for Narissa, because of your training, you will recognize this is the precursor to something psionic. That whine gets louder and louder and louder in all of your minds. But good turn, and you freed Melee. Melee, you land with Narissa next to you on this bridge, which is coming more and more apart. The webbing is barely holding it together. Your axe is still buried in this cactus, but you're free, and it's your turn. What do you do?
Okay. I'm gonna try something kind of crazy with my new jump strength that I have as a gift from Raka for the time being. I want to see if I could use that ability to pull my weapon free from this cactus. If I'm got crazy jump strength, surely that will help me zoink, sideways just out at the side of it and with my weapon.
You put both feet up on it and use the.
Yes. Yeah, so she's gonna grab her weapon, plant both feet each side of it, and then jump backwards.
I love it. And where are you trying to jump to?
Just back, just to try and free my weapon, just out of
Are you trying to jump out of the pit area?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely do this, but for an additional effect, I also want you to roll a strength for me.
Okay. What is my strength again? Let's see. 11. Oh, 16.
Your weapon, as you feel those eyes, those psionic eyes in the back of your head, and you feel a kinetic energy through your legs as you're bracing, you pull your weapon out by kicking back. And when you kick back, it feels like flying a little bit for a moment, except for instead of flying high, you're flying horizontally backwards. And Narissa, you get clipped in the shoulder by Mei Li as she telepathic or telekinetically jumps past you all the way back outside of the pit, leaving Narissa there in the middle alone. Then you freed your axe, Mei Li, but the only bits of the plant that you have with you is some of that sweet smelling purple, pink, and blue gunk gathered on its edge. And that's just your movement. You still have two action points if you want.
Oh God. I'm gonna defend. I'm gonna restore some HP because I got
Okay.
whacked just while I'm catching my breath.
So you can roll 1d4 and get that much HP back.
2.
Nice.
Perfect.
You catch your breath at the edge of the pit. And Raka, you've been maintaining concentration on your power up until this point. You see her fly backwards, so you know it worked. Okay. Right now, Narissa is still out there as that web and sand bridge is starting to collapse. What do you do?
I think now that Mei Li is out, and Narissa's basically in the position that Mei Li was previously, he'll essentially switch his gaze to Narissa and again cast Bound to ensure that she can do it as well. Again, extends his hand, eyes fixating, cheesy 80 eye effect behind, like where it's semi-trans, just behind.
I love it.
In like 1980s kind of like fantasy kind of thing that's in there.
Yeah, like half transparent in the background.
Just constantly there. And I'll do Bound on Mary should she want to jump out of there.
All right. Go ahead.
And I succeed on my mind.
So you maintain your ability to continue to use this psionic power. You change your psionic gaze to Narissa. And with the rest of your turn, are you continuing to get further away?
Oh,
are you holding where you are?
No, I'm getting further and further. I'm like almost slowly backing away. So hand extended, just looking and just backing away very, away to make sure that they can't grab hold of me or whatever.
With Zalus and Mei Li at the edge of the pit and Narissa right in the middle of it, you back up, maintaining your concentration until just a peak of the giant sun cracks over the sandstone that had been giving you a little bit of shelter, and you feel it in your eyes for just a moment, that incredibly hot, bright light.
If I reach that point, I'll probably just go back where I'm just in the shade.
Just take a step forward.
Yeah. He's like, ooh, no. Go back in.
All right. Let's have all of you make a mind save.
Okay. Ooh, no.
All right, so is that a success for Sam and for James, a fail for Tom?
Fail for me, yeah.
And we'll have Susie roll here in a minute when she pops back. All right, so Tom, this is going to affect you.
Okay.
You won't reduce armor from this. All right. 4 damage. I'll describe the effect here. How much HP do you have?
3.
Okay. So make another mind save.
Okay. I succeed.
You succeed. That's good. So reduce your mind temporarily by 1. You're taking 1 mind damage. So once you run out of HP, you start to take other kinds of damage to your actual stats. By
Right.
rolling your success, you avoided being knocked out of the combat and potentially something much worse happening to you. So here's what starts to happen to you, and you can describe how you resist it. This whine, and Susie, you can make a mind save as well. This whine, the sound begins to grow, and your vision begins to distort. Not because you're seeing an illusion. Wow, another one? Natural one? That's awesome. Not because you're seeing an illusion, but because of an intense amount of pain right centered at the fore of your heads. This lasts for a few uncomfortable moments before the power fades and the whine fades again, except for you, Raka. For you, this grows in intensity until you actually lose consciousness for a few moments. And when you stir, when your consciousness comes back, you are floating about 10 feet up off the ground, your arms spread wide, your head tilted back, your eyes glowing with the purple psionic light of this plant network. It's pulling you telepathically towards its tendrils, which begin to reach up higher and higher. And anybody who looks over their shoulder, you might see Raka, arms spread out, floating forward. However, you regain control of your body through your mind, through your willpower, or however you want to imagine it.
Okay.
So how do you do that?
I like to think that as he goes unconscious, he's in a place he can hear water and he can see green, and he feels good. He feels wonderful. He feels like he can almost feel the nature all around him. He can feel the coolness of the water. It is a dream. It is something that he just doesn't want to leave. And as he scoops his hand into the water and feels it, it doesn't feel wet. It almost feels it feels, it starts off as wet, but then starts to dry and then turns into grains of sand. And he looks around and looks back down, and it's still water. And I think at that point he realizes that this might be an illusion or his own mind playing tricks with him. Something's wrong. And that angers him. He's annoyed. He was happy, and now he's not happy. So then within him, he decides that he tries to use his defile ability and just absorb every single bit of greenery he can see. And as he does that, I think that brings up his willpower to come out of this stupor and opens his eyes, sees that he's floating. I'm assuming he drops the second this thing is thing.
Yeah,
as he
drop about 10 feet to the ground.
Yeah, it's like he opens his eyes. Oh, and just hits the ground quite hard. I mean, I imagine the concentration for bound is gone. I would imagine at that point.
I think the bound concentration is gone.
Yeah, and he's basically just prone, winded. I think he probably landed on his back, winded, and just kind of just moaning, going, "Oh, help!
And the tendrils that were reaching for him, Zalus, you and Melee are pretty close by, so you'll get a good look at this as he's floating past you and then falls down suddenly to his back. The tendrils that were almost snatching Raka, as they get closer and Raka's head jerks forward, he regains control of his body. You see those tendrils wither quickly, very, very rapidly. And as they wither, they begin to turn to ash at their ends, and they fall into the maw of the rest of this network. And I leave it to you whether or not you've ever seen defiling magic. But if you have, then you know what it looks like. Raka falls to the ground, and let's go to Narissa and then Zalus. And I made a saving throw for your effect. The creature failed.
Just to remind me again, Don, if all of my inventory slots are filled,
What happens
I
next,
just
right?
am I just insta dead or
Nope,
what
you're not
happens?
insta-dead. You just have 0 hit protection until
Okay.
you lose fatigue.
Okay, cool. Well, at that point, then Zalus will one of the withering shoots that's going back. He'll say, "Oh no," and grab on to it, and again crunch up one of the bones, mush it into the vine, and spend another cast.
Gain
to
a third
do.
point of fatigue.
Yeah.
So as you cast Flesh to Stone, and all of a sudden the stone is traveling slowly down one vine, now multiple vines are turning to stone and quickly moving towards the interior of the network. And where they touch one of those pools, one of those fly trap maws, that turns to stone too, and the stone starts to absorb that liquid. And when the stone absorbs the liquid inside, it sizzles. You can tell it's acidic. It smells like burnt sulfur. Narissa, you can see if you were to glance over your shoulder, Melee leaps back. There's tons of activity right at the edge. The stone vines are traveling, growing ever closer to the middle of this plant. But you're at the middle of this plant, this cactus with these beautiful light blue and pink flowers that jut up through its top. What do you do?
I think initially with Melee like flying backwards, she gets knocked on her shoulder and she spins around to see what's happened. She sees Raka float up into the air as that ear-piercing noise stops for a second. I don't think she clocks quite what Raka did before he actually dropped to the ground, but she is going to try and plunge her gladius right down into what might be like the roots of this cactus, like into the ground, stabbing it once or twice before then darting back to the rest of the group.
Go ahead and roll your damage.
Yeah, D8. A 6
Hey,
again.
6
We
is
got there in
good.
the end. +1
Yeah,
to no armor.
metal weapons are nice.
Yeah.
So when you drive your blade down into the base of this cactus, of course the roots go far further down, but this is where you've seen juice. This is where you've seen cactus meat when it opened up to the inside. Nothing else that you've seen would suggest that you would want to eat any other part of this plant network. But this part right here, you drive your blade down and the thing opens up again, quivers. You can feel its consciousness touch yours. Fear, helplessness. It's dying. It's turning to stone. But this part hasn't turned to stone yet. You pull your blade out. What do you do?
Instead of moving back, can I try and carve it out?
Sure. If you take the time to carve it out before it turns to stone, as much of the meat and juice as you can, the inside, it dies when it's removed from the rest of the cactus, and the rest of the cactus dies and anybody else who's watching, you'll see it spreading, transforms to stone, a statue, and the weight of that statue, the weight of all of these stone vines, it's far more than this thing weighed before. And because of that, it immediately begins to sink downward. Narissa, you're able to grab some of the juice, some of the fruit some of the meat of the cactus and book it before everything collapses downward. But once it does, it's like the desert always is. Whatever lingers on it, beneath it, within it, the desert reclaims everything, and usually sooner rather than later. You've got this juicy meat in your hands, and because of Susie's roll earlier, you gain 4 rations worth of cactus meat, which you can put in your inventories wherever you want. That's enough to feed all of you for 1 day. And the
I
encounter's
was just
over.
gonna have to hold it. I'm just saying, just as above the table. I've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
fine.
very tired.
That's fine.
Worth it in the end, I think.
Absolutely, totally worth it.
Just another Tuesday in Dark Sun. We get to eat again.
Tasty cactus.
So I think
Yay!
I think Raka's just gonna lay in the sand, in the kind, because we're in shade at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, you have this sandstone that's sticking out of the sand that provides a little bit of shade right here.
He's just gonna lay down and stay there just for a bit, just enjoying the shade. Okay, just for a little bit.
Mainly he's gonna like with the goop that was on her blade, she's just gonna be like, oh.
It is one of the most sweet tasting juices. A lot of people talk about how good kank honey is, but this is much, much better.
Oh wow.
I don't want to know any more about Cancunny.
No.
Don't want to ask any questions about it. Yeah, it must be lovely. I think I'm going to share this cactus stuff out to people. And say to Zalis, kind of like Zalis's direction. A survivalist once said that once you've found food or water, you should just have it there and then on to the next meal and the next, as a way to survive the desert. So I assume that's right. And she, as she's passing it around.
Current situation. That's for the best. And Zalis just like sort of half bent over and just sort of collapses face down into the sand and is just breathing, like just trying to get his breath back from the exertion that this has taken. And like pick very slowly, just like pick shards of stone out of his legs.
Well, then we eat tonight.
We are camping here.
You've got a few hours of daylight left, but you know after the exhaustion of the heat and the storm today, you would gain fatigue. Zalis, you can't gain any more fatigue.
We leave you here, Zalis, and
you
we
would
move
have
on.
you
That's it.
can actually what you would have
Just
to do
hold
is
on
you'd have to drop something
I'd have
essentially.
to,
Some of
I'd
your
have
weight.
to drop
Yeah.
stuff, right? Yeah. No, you just that's it. You just lash Zalis to the sinking statue, and that's it. It's
If
the
we
way he
strap
would have wanted
Zalis
to
to the cank,
go.
can we travel more?
Do you want cank honey? Because that's how you
That's
get
how
cank
you
honey.
get cank
That's how you get
honey.
cank.
Oh,
And you
Oh.
can punctuate that however you want. That's how you get cank honey.
Yeah, what you can do is because your kank it is able to carry some things. It has some weight that it can carry. Mechanically, the way this works is that your kank has its own set of gear slots for you, 6, and in addition to being able to carry the 4 of you. So Zalis, if you wanted to store some of your stuff on the kank, you would gain more exhaustion, but you could travel further.
It's up to the group. I would, in character, I would probably be very like, I think we've made good progress today, and given this dubious windfall, he looks at Melee side-eyeing. Perhaps
she just looks happy as Larry, by the way. She's just sat there like eating the cactus, like
Perhaps we could take our rest early and recover in case of any other mishaps.
Maylee stands up. She degoops her hands and she says, "Everybody, just." She looks across at like Zalis and Raka, who are just like half dead, and she's like, "Don't worry about setting up. I got this." And she just like gets like a tent down and starts putting it up herself.
If you're going to start setting up camp, raise your hand if you tonight for food are eating the cactus that you just captured.
Wait a second. No, this is how he gets us.
Hey,
Yeah.
This is how he gets us.
The
Sam,
button.
press the
Character-
pink and blue buttons.
Your
Press them.
character literally said to eat what you get
Yeah.
immediately.
No, but her
So
character's going
I
to watch
have
us eat
to-
it and have
Yeah,
the,
that's
have the
it.
jerky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, hang on one
Oh,
second.
Listen, it's
shit,
just
I am
responsible.
actually going to do that. I am actually going to do that. I'm going to
Watch
watch
them
them
first.
eat it first.
What does
It's just
so,
responsible. If we're gonna trip balls, we need somebody who's not tripping, and then she can make sure we don't die.
She's the designated canker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to, if you go on a trip, you need someone,
Oh, I
the
might
designated
not.
safe person.
have I been in the city? Have I ever seen this type of food before?
You've definitely seen desert fruits before, but the color of this is rare. Unless you've spent a lot of time. Have you spent a lot of time exploring, combing the desert?
No.
Well,
Then
I
you
mean,
probably
that-
haven't seen it.
I mean-
This would be something that would be like found inside the city, because most people hunting for food that's not growing it locally, they wouldn't risk it with this creature.
I mean, further to that, I mean, my character has spent a lot of time in the desert and around. Is that
Yeah.
could I like have a roll for something on that to see if I know anything about it?
Yeah, give me a mind save.
Okay, let's have a look. That is not enough. I don't think. No, I've got mine 12, so no.
So this particular fruit, this particular juice, no. But you could always test it. One of you could try it first if you're worried it's going to be poisonous. That's
I'm not
the
worried that
safest
it's
way.
poisonous. I'm worried that it could be valuable in the city. That's
Yes.
what I'm going
I think
for.
That's the
think
question.
that Zalis and like, I don't want to speak for you, Tom, but I feel like Zalis and Raka would be like, well, she found it. She can try it first, can't she?
Well, yeah, I think Raka's not so much about the poisoning. He's more interested, can he make a profit
Is it
from
money?
this?
Yeah.
If he can eat his normal rations, he can
Yeah,
take it
your
back
ability
to
to
the city.
appraise the fact that it's rare, it's edible, it smells sweet, and based on Melee's reaction, tastes good.
So in that case,
yeah,
I will eat.
this is a treat.
I'm not going to eat this. I'm going to basically do my best to store and preserve it and just eat some normal rations.
Okay.
Because Alice is going to watch Melee eat first and then probably eat it afterwards, as long as she doesn't die instantly.
Do you want me, because this is something specific, do you want me to add this as an additional slot to my inventory? Not just
No,
add
you
it
can
to
just put it on the
ration?
same, all your food in that same line. Just
Okay.
make a little note for yourself.
Will do.
So as you start to set up camp, we'll talk about last kind of actions and camp actions and how all this goes. Maybe like 45 minutes go by, Melee's getting, the tents and everything ready. And Melee, you feel fine. It was very nourishing. You actually feel full, also reasonably hydrated for having traveled in the desert today. More hydrating than normal water is how you would describe it. Tastes good too. You don't feel queasy or anything like that.
Okay, I'm not seeing little pixies dancing or
Oh no, not
strange.
yet.
No,
What
yeah,
are
okay.
we
Good.
seeing of Melee, Don? What are we seeing?
You would notice just a slight tint to her cheeks, which is weird because of the sun, right? The way that the sun colors the skin here. But you could swear maybe it's like a flush, like a little bit of purple. Just a
Oh,
little bit.
okay. Okay, I'm making a note that it gives the that's an
It's
extra
skin
feature.
purple.
Turns nice color of purple. I can sell that.
Uh, Action-wise, as we kind of round out our day, if we're setting up camp here, we have 2 wilderness actions. Somebody can use the make camp action. Somebody could use the explore action to try to like make your camp safer. Or somebody could use the scout action to scout ahead and reveal 2 hexes for your travel the next day.
Well, I think Susie said that you were making camp.
I mean, I've already done my action though. I did
Yeah,
the supply. That's how we
somebody will
ended
have
up.
to have
Oh,
melee.
yes,
Yeah, that's how you got the
So
cactus.
who hasn't? So me and Sam,
I've
basically,
not
right?
done one.
I
Yeah,
haven't
the
done
2
one.
of you.
Okay.
And it's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong answer.
I could do a bit of a scout.
Okay.
What's
Well,
the role? Like, what's the expertise for scouting?
there's no roll you have to make.
Okay.
I roll on something and to see what happens. You just choose which directions you want to
Good.
scout. So it could be like southwest, southeast, east, west, those kinds of directions. Things of note, you know that somewhere on your map to the south, there's supposed to be an oasis. That's kind of why you decided to come down this way first rather than beat west. But you did also see some strange clouds, dark clouds like smoke
Oh,
rising to the west.
Yeah, it's like for sure smoke, right?
Oh yeah. Nothing else.
I forgot this is what he does. He's got lots of little random tables and lots of little rolls that he makes, and they're all horrible. All of them.
It's not a
Every
single
entry
good
is
thing.
awful. All right, but I will scout, and I can get 2.
Yeah, you can choose any 2 hexes,
Like
2 directions essentially.
Southeast and southwest, I think. That's where we're heading.
Okay.
So that makes most sense to me.
All right. We'll resolve this here in a second. We'll come back to you,
Okay.
Sam, but I'll go ahead and reveal the map before I describe what you find.
You find a cactus.
2 cactuses with pretty flowers.
It's just a minefield of cacti as
It's
far as
just
I can see.
cacti everywhere. Yeah.
All right. And Tom, as they're setting up camp, are you using the make camp option
I think
action?
I will, yeah. To make it as safe as to find the best safe place.
So Melee has been traveled in the desert, worked in caravans, pretty experienced with setting up and breaking down camp. You are too in different ways. I'm interested, how do each of you approach making a little home for yourselves for the night?
Okay.
And do you have any kind of like personal rituals, making camp rituals that you have?
I think as odd as it might look, it's probably almost like that Raka is opening a store, if as odd as that sounds. So he gets his satchel and he has a look and he places things out around him as if like presenting them to sell. He has his bedroll quite near, and he always seems to want to have. He always wants to sleep as best as possible to have something behind him, but just behind him. He doesn't mind on the sides. Just something behind him all the time, and he doesn't really sleep lying down. He always sleeps kind of almost sitting. Almost, it's as strange as it is, almost like someone just at a stall waiting for something just to come up, and so he can just wake up and sell something. It's very bizarre, very weird.
How does that differ from Melee?
Melee, I think through her experiences of a caravan guard, she just makes sure that there's good sight lines in the camp and there's like a little spot where someone can keep watch and be kind of like, semi-hidden. So if anyone approaches the camp, they don't see the watch. And she sits in like a little nook and she pulls out this like really grotty piece of like skin, and she's got like a little stone almost like a pencil, and she can't write very well. She's not very well educated, but she's scratching in there like a little journal of everything she's doing, but she's writing it like it's a letter back home to her family. So she's just sat there while she's waiting for Nerissa to come back after her scout. She's just, and keeping a little watch. She's writing like a Today, we came across a giant cactus. It tasted really nice, but it did almost kill us. Lesson learned. Cactus tasty. Worth it? Hmm?
Uh, Across camp, Zalis, Narissa's gone off to scout. You've been watching Maylee, and other than a little flush of purple to her cheeks and little bits of maybe cactus juice, on various parts of her face or clothes or travel clothes, you haven't seen any like strange negative reaction at this point. How are you setting up camp for yourself, and what do you do?
So I think he'll have what is effectively some sticks and a very thin like cloth or gauze to put over them, and effectively just by looking at the camp as a druid and seeing sort of the undulations of where the wind would take a dune or where it would take the sand, try and sit in the lee of it, sort of semi half dig and push some of the sand up and effectively make a sort of 3/4 sort of curved sticks and then thing, and then push it down into the sand. So effectively it's like sand, and then so you get this sort of round bump in the ground where there's sand on one side where the head is, and then the rest of it is this sort of semi tent, but not quite, like quite close in, just to sort of a little bit bigger than the size of the body, so that if sand catches and moves around it, it actually just sort of helps build the tent up and sort of coats it. If it was a big sandstorm, obviously it collapsed and they'd have to wake up, but gives it that. And then once that's set and they're ready to get in there, I think they're going to take the cactus and just try and strip it into very, very thin strips, and take a small container and any juice or water that comes out of it, so that they've got sort of two separate things. One is the strips of this cactus, which I think they're going to sort of lash to their belt to dry, almost like a cactus jerky kind of thing, like really dry celery or something like that, And then imagine somebody's taken celery and just sort of juiced it and just going to drink all the juice out of that. And that's going to be their evening.
And just like as I described to Mei Li, it's sweet, it's refreshing, it's hydrating. And for you especially, after all of the energy you exerted drawing upon the plane of Earth for your power, it's desperately needed. And we'll cut over to Nerissa in a second, but the three of you can go ahead and spend one of your uses of rations. And Zalis, I don't think, Maylee, you don't have any fatigue, right? The cactus restores 1 fatigue. Oh, you're muted, James.
Sorry, my bad. So many different mutes. I've got a thing where one of my druid things is when I rest, I remove 3 levels of fatigue rather than 1.
What's the let's see what
it says Earth and Soul. If you recover from resting, remove 3 levels of fatigue. If you cast a spell using an Earth Charm that day, it will basically all 3 of my fatigue were Earth Charms. So.
Yep. So you will be entirely better the next day. You know this. You know how far you can push yourself. Not much further than this.
Yeah.
But you push yourself right up to the edge today. So as the sun starts to set and it turns to this bloody red, the entire sky, you can start to see in the distance from your camp the 2 far off moons. The smaller of those 2 moons, the more distant, that sort of orange golden orb of Guthay. It shines brightly despite being further away, and it's usually the case. The other moon, Rao, kind of bleeds into the night sky, and Guthay is almost like a star, just larger. You can see it there as evening approaches. And Samantha, further south, you hike, you follow the dunes until they become hills. There's still desert all around, but there's an ascent now. You've kind of gone down into a basin for most of the day, and now you're coming back up, and you can see further to the south, hills rise even further. They kind of roll in the background, slight barrier between where you think you would be and this possible oasis might be. You get to the foothills of those rise, that ascent, and you kind of follow them around and begin to loop back, but then you see it nestled right at the foothills, here in the southeast from you, not the southwest. A large mechalot. Now, mechalot is a turtle-like creature, but it's the size of several houses put together. They've got huge shells that are so solid and so strong that they could support structures on their back. And in fact, nobles in the city, the wealthiest of the wealthy, will put entire caravans on the back of mechalots. A single mechalot can pull 6 or 7 carts behind them through the desert slowly, but without ever tiring. They are used to travel over silt seas where something of a larger size and with their shell can actually make it over and not fall through. They are the most valued creature for caravans, and their meat, while Mechalot steak is not the tastiest food, it's serviceable and there's tons of it. A single Mechalot, you would know, is worth a lot of ceramics. And right now there's a wild one, and you can tell the difference because its shell hasn't been painted. It hasn't been marked with the sigil of a noble house, a merchant house, grazing in the low grass of this foothill to the southeast. But that's not all you see as you're scouting. You see 3 elves wearing just loincloths. They've got bows over their shoulder, quivers. One of them might have, it might be a metal sword. It's hard to see from the distance, but it does glint off of the evening lights somewhat. They all have weapons. You see them sneaking down from the foothills towards this mechalot. That's what you spy. What do you do as you spot this?
Stood in towards the kind of foothills. She ponders that if I have seen them and I'm just stood out here, not really having tried to hide or disguise where I am, they've probably seen me too. So in a way, she kind of sees herself almost cinematically as a kind of solitary figure, just stood ominously watching as they're stalking this mechalot. But she takes note of that, and then she turns to head back up the sand dunes, back over that rise, back to the camp.
You turn and leave behind the hills. Do you look behind you, or are you moving quickly? How do you approach the return?
She'll hurry a little bit, yeah, knowing that there's people out there.
You
Particularly elf hunters, but yeah, she's not really looking back, not checking over her shoulder or anything.
Elves are able to run almost forever. They almost never tire. They're masters at running and moving on the desert. They don't exhaust in the way that most people do. And like a lot of elves who spend a lot of time in the desert, they wear minimal clothing to be able to move as quickly as possible, especially during the evening hours when the sun's going down. So you leave them behind and make your way back to camp just as the last little bit of blood in the sky is turning dark, and there's only the 2 moons shining down from an otherwise void above. And you can see the camp that's been set up here. Zalus just finishing his little bit of cactus juice Raka back to the wall, Maylee there off on her own. And you'll all hear the rustle outside of camp, a couple of rocks shifting just beyond your view. And then Narissa appears in the moonlight.
Yeah, Maylee, like she was engrossed in her scratching, but the second she hears the movement, she's like alert and looking, and then relaxes when she sees Narissa.
Did you find anything?
More sand,
Mm.
just more desert.
Do we have a direction for the morning?
I think southwest is probably preferable. This tiny elf hunting party was stalking a mechalot just southeast of here. And I don't know, I wouldn't be able to guarantee what elves might think of us or might want from us if we were to cross their path.
Okay. Southwest it is then.
And like what I'd like to do is for Narissa to just kind of like find someone else's bedroll and just get into it.
Did Narissa not have her own bedroll?
She just assumes it's been set up. Just gets into it.
So roll, I don't know, roll 1d4.
2.
On a 1, it's your bedroll on accident. On a 2, it's Zalis's bedroll, actually.
Okay.
It's literally too small for you because I'm a half.
Yeah.
You're like, it's like half your legs because you're tall as well.
She like moves around in it uncomfortably, like can't quite fathom why. And she's just, why? She turns over in it and like tries just to kind of like get up towards her.
Zealous will walk up to point at Maylee's bedroll and go, yours is over there.
Oh. Sorry. She gets up and she walks over to Maylee's bedroll and gets in it.
And Maylee just goes, but... And then she sits up for watch. She's just sat there like...
Oh,
As
man, how
the
gross is Maylee's bedroll?
She's not dirty.
Covered in cactus juice.
Covered in cactus juice.
cactus juice. So you set up camp. Maylee, you give over your bedroll to Narissa. This you suspect probably pretty wealthy individual, and you have a direction for the next day. You keep watch, at least first watch that night as the camp goes down, and you're all not starting a fire or anything like that, right? Try not to draw attention to yourself. So it's just the moonlight to watch over you. And when the moon shift in the sky with you there beneath this sandstone structure, eventually they move mostly behind. And when they do, it really casts everything into darkness, your camp. Maylee, you're keeping watch, and at some point, you go. You fall asleep, even if it's just for a few moments. You know that you must have fallen asleep because when you stir, when you snap back awake, you have flashes of memories, a dream in your mind. Moonlit sunken chamber with many hooded statues around the outside of this chamber facing inward, something swirling in the water beneath, and something rising to two yellow eyes rising from the water, looking at you. And in that dream, you weren't alone. Dallas, you have the same dream that night, both of you. Except for Zalus, you looked left and you saw Maylee there in that chamber with you. And Maylee, you looked right and you saw Zalus in the chamber with you. The only other thing you can remember, it's just fragments, is a hissing sound And that is where we'll wrap up this session.
No.
Well, all I'm glad is that I wasn't there.
We had peaceful night's sleep, so
It was wonderful.
Yeah, you all get a peaceful night's sleep. You get to recover any lost. I think it was just Zalus that had all the fatigue. Your HP comes back after the encounter. If you lost, I think Tom, you lost a point of your mind.
Oh,
That
yes, I did,
recovers. That'll recover
Thank you.
after you sleep. And that is how you finish your first day of your journey with a set goal for the next day. And we'll pick up things next episode.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Don.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
thank
Good
you
fun.
all.
That was good, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to go round and do the whole round robin of stuff, but
No.
yeah, have fun. Welcome to
Yeah.
Athos,
It was
Yeah.
really
where
good.
your average Tuesday is having to kill an entire
Dude, if that was
subterranean
the first
cactus
encounter,
for just a bit of nosh.
You know? And I would just like to say that is Susie critted with all of those.
Mhm.
That's the
There's a lot of good
nicest
rolls.
thing that Don gave us.
Yep.
You know,
Might not be the
Doesn't bode
nicest,
well
but it
for
might
the
be the most
future.
plentiful. That's the
ah,
thing.
that's the thing, isn't it? It's the most plentiful, not necessarily the most the nicest or easiest thing.
Yeah.
That is
It
yeah.
worked out in the end. We all got rations.
It worked out
Hey, we've all
fantastically.
still got our limbs,
Yep.
and we ate and drank. Like,
What more could you ask for in Dark
And a
Souls?
Dark
successful
Sun.
day in the desert.
success.
I think so.
Look, I've always thought maybe I should have spent more time in the desert doing POT with my friends. So, doing it digitally is probably better all round, really.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. That was a blast.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Don.
you, Don.
Thank you, Don. That's
We're
awesome.
back. We're back next week with this. We're gonna do this. So
2
we've-
weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh,
We're
every
gonna do
2
other
weeks. Yes,
Every
I
2
can
weeks.
remember
3rd
now.
of Feb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So 3rd of Feb, 4th of Feb. If it's
Oh my
no, it's
god!
a
was it
Monday. What am
Feb?
I doing? Stop.
Third, I'm looking at the
It's the
calendar.
It's
3rd of
the
February.
3rd.
Yeah, it's the 3rd of February.
God,
I know.
February already.
It's been a year. Yeah, we'll see you then. Hopefully, for more of this. 3 episodes left. I'm sure we can.
Right.
I'm sure we can get to that pool of snake water, and I can sacrifice you all. It'll be fine. Be great.
Hey.
No problem.
If it's gonna be anyone, let's
Yeah,
face
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you immediately went, "Oh, I'm not even hiding being an evil character."
I was thinking about this today, and as I was kind of like mentally just preparing a little bit of the session, remember what we talked about and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna play a villain. Like that's it.
You're really
Just
good
gonna
at a
play
villain.
as a
You do a
villain.
good villain. You give a good villain.
I do.
Yeah.
Political villain.
Well, I'm bigger and stronger than all of you, so I'll just push you in the water and walk away.
Boosh.
Go home with all your money.
Zalus is there. Like I only need one.
I loved today, just the start of the session, how folks wanted to adopt Rilka into your party. And then Sam, Narissa, just no.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Just no. Yeah.
It was the perfect introduction to like what point of views and perspectives are like in Dark Sun. That was really good.
It was quite interesting because the only one that actually wanted to help her was Mei Li.
Yeah.
Raka was just going to use her as a kind of thing in the city as entertainment and stuff.
And Zalus was just going to use her to basically walk up and touch cactuses if we didn't have a pole.
That's it.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah.
Mei Li, you're in with a good bunch here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melly is too good for this world, is what I'm finding
She
out.
is.
And she may not be around long enough to be
Well, that's
good
the
for this
problem.
world
If you're
she
too
carries
good
on.
for a world, the world will tend to eat you
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty
That's
quickly,
very
unfortunately.
She's lived. Hey, she's survived so far.
Yeah. She's got the muscles for it.
Yeah.
We got to see some of everybody's cool abilities and spells and sort of how that stuff works today. And it's a fun, it's a fun, simple system, but things just work and they just do cool things. And that's the idea behind all of it.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun where you just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've all been in that area where we're playing a game and your rolls just suck and you do nothing the entire combat.
Yeah, this is nice and like tighter and
Mhm.
cooler.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. Sweet. All right. Well, we'll go and we'll raid Xanderific. Go and show Xander some love from various things like the Star Trek Adventures streams that Eric and Code did. He's playing some Great Ace Attorney. It's the thing. Well, I've got the Great Ace Atto, and that I assumes the rest. So go and check it out. I think that'll work. Hey, a raid has been created. We're back 2 weeks, 3rd of February, same time, with more cactusy juice action. We'll see you then, I guess. Have fun. Bye now. Goodbye. Have a raid. Bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. A beautiful time.